and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to Dorothy Hamm Middle School. I have been saying that, I have been saying that on the morning announcements or some version of that every single day, and it never gets old. I want to say thank you to so many friends, family members, staff, students, honored guests, and the members of the Dorothy Hamm family who are here today to celebrate new beginnings for this building. So we are here today to celebrate the beginning of a new story in APS and on this site, the story of Dorothy Hamm Middle School. And the story is really of all the young people who will and have entered these doors. I began my career in Arlington County Public Schools almost 30 years ago as an English teacher. And you know that English teachers, like my mom and my aunt and many of my other favorite English teachers out here, we are especially fond of stories. Stories really that have a strong message, that inspire, that motivate, and that teach important life lessons. So as we begin to write our own story here at Dorothy Hamm, it's especially important for me to acknowledge and learn from the stories that have come before us. This particular building has many stories. Perhaps the most important one began 60 years ago in 1959 when a community came together in support of ensuring that all students, no matter the color of their skin, had access to an excellent educational facility and the richness of opportunity that provided. That was the story of collaboration amongst many community members, of painful rejection, and of dogged persistence. It was the story of 4 young 7th graders who bravely joined this school community, but it is also the story of the young people who were not initially allowed to join the community and who persevered with the support of their families in seeking that educational equality. When the H.B. Woodlawn program moved into this building in 1978, that story changed to one of innovative educational practices, rethinking the structures and systems that had been in place to create a more college-like environment for high school students, one that emphasized taking responsibility for one's own education and student participation in the governance of their school building. This past year, I had the privilege of living and working here at H.B. Woodlawn, and I observed those innovative practices in action, really, and I hope that I can take the best that I saw and implement them here at Dorothy Hamm. As you know, over recent years, the population in Arlington has continued to climb. We know that very well. And consequently, the surrounding neighborhoods, another story came together really to advocate for, to design, and to create a neighborhood middle school here in this neighborhood. That too is a story of dogged persistence, of overcoming challenges, and of collaboration amongst many in the community. Today, as we celebrate the beginning of the newest chapter of this historic building's story, one that includes 744 middle school students, 6th through 8th graders, and close to 100 staff members, many of whom are out here. Thank you so much. We honor the stories that have come before us, and we seek to weave the themes from their stories into ours. Students today need to hear and learn from the powerful stories of dogged persistence. They need to hear the story of diverse groups coming together to create opportunities, and they need to experience innovative teaching practices that emphasize the skills of collaboration, critical analysis, and problem solving. So we are here today to actually cut the ribbon to open this new school and begin this new story officially. And I would like to introduce Ms. Erin Ginnerty, who is our chorus director at Dorothy Hamm. And the Dorothy Hamm Advanced Choir, which is going to sing Homeward Bound, arranged by Jay Althouse. Now, have a great time.
Quiet, misty morning, when So what an uplifting way to begin. I want to thank Dorothy Hamm Middle School Advanced Course, the students and their families for being here and sharing in today's festivities. My name is Cynthia Johnson. I'm serving as the interim superintendent during this school year. This is an exciting time for Arlington Public Schools and for our community as we celebrate the opening of Dorothy Hamm Middle School. We are so proud of this community and the way everyone from staff and students to parent volunteers and civic associations have come together to support the school and ensure a safe and successful start to the school year. And I've actually known Ellen Smith for many, many years. I was sharing with her family that we were together back at Thomas Jefferson. So I'd like all of us to acknowledge her tremendous leadership along with her. She can't do it alone. The assistant principals, Miss Lisa Moore and Miss Laura Sarut, for their leadership and their commitment to the success of our students. Thank you. And then there's the incredible Dorothy Hamm Middle School teachers and staff who came here with a commitment to build a new school community. Thank you. Now, I can't leave it unsaid to not acknowledge the custodial staff for all their unpacking and cleaning, and how appropriate it is to acknowledge them today, because this week in particular is Custodial National Recognition Week. So we've spent a lot of time this week acknowledging the hard work of our custodians, so I want to just make that statement on behalf of not only the custodians here at Dorothy Hamm, but throughout our school system as well. And last but not least are members of the Hamm family who are here with us. So if we have members of the Hamm family, could I please have you stand or raise your hand so that we can acknowledge you and thank you as well. This is a special place because it holds so much history as the first public secondary school in the Commonwealth of Virginia to integrate. Dorothy Hamm was fearless. Dorothy Hamm was a fearless leader in the federal desegregation suit that led to the peaceful integration of public school in Arlington. At APS, we focus on inclusion, excellence, and innovation for all students. We value people for who they are and embrace the contributions of all students, families, and staff. Dorothy Hamm's story is a powerful story and a powerful example of leadership for students attending this school and all across our district. We are excited about this new renovation, the addition to the school, which you will hear more about this afternoon. It is a new beginning and an opportunity for the students here to write their own chapter.
And just a couple of weeks ago, I was at the ribbon cutting ceremony for Drew Elementary School. And it was a very special occasion as well, because Drew also has a deep history in Arlington. And so being able to be here at Dorothy Hamm Middle School and acknowledging the deep history that is here is also an honor and an exciting time for me in my life to know that I am here standing at this historic site where injustices were corrected and our fight for equality and civil rights was starting. Our new neighborhood school sits at the site of the historic Stratford Junior High, the first white public school in the Commonwealth of Virginia to desegregate and admit African American students in 1959, thanks to the longstanding efforts and civil action case of Mrs. Dorothy Hamm and a few others. Without their efforts and their fight, we would not have what we have today in this country. Today, we celebrate the reopening of this site as the Dorothy Hamm Middle School. This building will serve as a second home to students in grades 6 to 8, carrying out the mission of APS to ensure all students learn and thrive in safe, healthy, and supportive learning environments, while also honoring an Arlington native who advocated for educational equal rights for all for her entire life. She tirelessly fought for civil rights and civil justice. If you read about her, it is amazing, the story, her life story, and how she fought to make sure that everyone had access to equal education. Today, we continue advocating to ensure our students are part of an inclusive community that not only empowers them to foster their dreams, explore their possibilities, and create their futures, but that ensures that there are no barriers to each of our students in reaching their full potential.
Good evening or good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out on this beautiful day. They said it would be chilly, but it's actually a very beautiful day today. Before I mention a few things about my mom, she would have been 100 years old in March of this year, March 19th. And one of my mother's first cousins, her younger cousin, who's 93, happens to be here with us today, Miss Sarah White Perry. Also with us is my mother's youngest brother's daughter, my grandmother's namesake, Gertrude Bigelow McKnight, Trudy as we call her. Another cousin, Camille White Washington Brown. And then another cousin, Sandra Howell, my father's older sister's niece. So thank you all for coming. There is a saying that says, faith is the substance of all things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen. My mother had a tremendous and deep-rooted faith. She was a woman of great faith, love for her family, for her community, for God, and for her country. My mother was an avid gardener, and I just wanted to express this real quick so you can understand how deeply she loved her country. When she was in her 70s and moved from Arlington to Caroline County, which is our family's, my grandmother's birthplace, she created a flower garden in the shape of a heart. And in this garden, there were several rose bushes, one for her mother, which was a peace rose, because my grandmother was always keeping the peace in the family, one for each of her brothers and her sister. But my mother's rose was called the American pride. And that's truly how she felt about this country. My mother, her maternal great-grandmothers were both African slaves brought here from Africa to Caroline County. One of my mother's great-grandmothers fell in love with a Native American chieftain who owned enough land to buy her freedom. My mother's other great-grandmother was an African slave who had multiple children by a plantation owner in Caroline County. My mother comes from a family of educators, of pastors, of farmers, of people who were entrepreneurs. But at the age of 6, my grandmother, along with several of her children and 2 of her sisters, decided to leave Caroline County and come north to settle in Bailey's Crossroads, Virginia. In 1925, they migrated to Bailey's Crossroads. And as my mother grew up, at one point when my grandmother had her youngest child, my mother had to sit out of school for 2 years to help raise him, as my grandmother worked 2 jobs to take care of 7 children, along with her husband, my grandfather. My mother, as she matured in life, she became a seamstress, a very talented seamstress, could make dresses and church hats with veils and flowers and birds and all kinds of things on it that you might not think would be appropriate on a hat, but during that time it looked really good. She also made costumes for different events at church, for parties, Halloween, for plays that she wrote and produced and directed, and also for the bicentennial 1976 parade that our community did, which we happened to win first place in that parade because we depicted the lives of outstanding African Americans. When my mom got a little older and went to college, she went to Cortez Peters Business School, which is now part of Howard University. And she later on went to George Washington University. She studied there and became very efficient as an administrative assistant, and later went on to be the administrative assistant for the U.S. Army Surgeon General and worked at the Pentagon, which she retired from when I was born. But my mom, one day when she was 24, escorted her younger sister to a high school dance. My grandmother would not let my aunt go unless my mother escorted her. So at this dance, my mother met this tall gentleman, and she thought he was kind of handsome, and they ended up dancing and then dated for a while. And up until that point, my mother had decided that she would live a life as a missionary. She wanted to serve. She wanted to take care of people. But the fact that my father was taller than she was 5'8", which was kind of tall for a woman at that time, my father also had a beautiful design for this house. He had a background in drafting and architectural design and was a drafting instructor in Manassas, where my aunt was attending school. Shortly thereafter, my dad went into the military to fight in World War II, and he proposed to my mom, and they were married by candlelight on Christmas Eve at 8 p.m. in Bailey's Crossroads. Well, shortly after my father came home from the military, on my mother's 30th birthday, he had purchased some property in Arlington, Virginia, and on her 30th birthday, he began to build their home in 1949. He completed the home on my brother Bernard's 3rd birthday in 1950, and they moved into that house shortly after that, quickly becoming an integral part of the community. My parents both loved the Halls Hill Highview Park community. However, with my brothers being 3 and 5 years old, as they got older, they would ride by here going into Washington, and one day my brother noticed that they were building this new school, and he questioned my mom about it. And she said, yes, it's a new middle school, and he said, or junior high school, and he said, I want to go to that school, I can't wait. And she told him, well, that school is for white children. And he said to my mom, I wish I were a white boy. So that, I think, amongst other things, gave my mom the impetus, and my father as well, to begin to pursue their ultimately lifelong task of making sure that things were equal in Arlington County for all. And that is how it was a community effort, a collective effort. That is how everybody came together and dealt with going to the Supreme Court until they won the battle to desegregate Stratford Junior High School. My mom was very talented. There wasn't too much she couldn't do. She was an excellent baker, like I said, a seamstress, a gardener, an educator. She was instrumental in starting the ACAP and Head Start programs in Arlington with some other community folks. And she loved music. She loved writing. But one thing my mom could not do too well was sing. So let me tell you, she would be very thrilled to know that there are a group of beautiful young children here, young adults with beautiful voices carrying her name and continuing her legacy. We thank you so much for being here today. There are many other things I can tell you about my mom, which you can find online, but I think my brother Bernard and I, we were discussing a couple of months ago about how I'm 12 years younger than he is, but how when my mom would bake cakes, we would fight over who got to lick the batter. So my mom would split up the beaters and the bowl, the spoon and the bowl. So I think she kind of divvied out who got what by age appropriateness, but I think he always got more than me. But at any rate, she always tried to be fair and like I say, loved her community. She was a devoted Brownie leader. A matter of fact, Miss Lisa Moore, your assistant principal, her aunt was in my mother's Brownie troop. And it's just, I could go on and on about all the things my mom accomplished in life, but this is something that it's unbelievable. The struggles that we went through as a community, that we went through as families, that we could be here on a day like today and have this building, this sacred building that has so much wonderful history. This is a historic building to be named after my mom.
On this very day, October the 4th, 1959, some 60 years ago, around this same time of day, 27 students from a community then known as Halls Hill were returning home from school. The school was known as Stratford Junior High School. 7 months earlier, their classmates, Ronnie, Michael, Gloria, and Lance, had made history when they entered Stratford Junior High School on February the 2nd, 1959. Those 27 students who followed them left a community where they felt safe to venture into unknown territory. They walked to school that day, some of them from as far away as Wendy's at George Mason Drive and Lee Highway. Most of them had never walked more than 3 blocks to school. They were entering a school with all white students and all white staff, with the exception of their 4 friends. They were coming from an all-black school with all black students and all black staff. They left a school where they were popular athletes, cheerleaders, where they held offices in the student government and homecoming queens. They were now entering a school where initially they would not be able to hold any of these positions. Yes, at the ages of 11, 12, and 13, some of these students were apprehensive. Some were sad. Some were afraid. Some were even angry because they didn't want to leave their school. But all of them wanted to know how and if they would fit in. Over the years, the restrictions were lifted, and students began to understand that they indeed had many things in common. While there were many challenges in the early days of school integration, those students persevered and paved the way. Hopefully, we made the journey a little easier for those who followed. Today, we are retired grandparents. We are privileged to be here today to witness once again history in the making. We are proud to be residents of a county who acknowledges its dark past, a county who has come full circle and has the foresight today to shine a light on an individual who fought for the equal rights of all people. We are proud to be citizens of a county brave and respectful enough to name this school Dorothy Hamm Middle School. Thank you.
I am thrilled to be here today representing the DHMS PTSA at the dedication of our school. Since the school board announced that a new middle school was needed in North Arlington in 2014, there have been so many people whose efforts have brought us here today. The Arlington parents of the surrounding neighborhoods who dreamed of bringing a new neighborhood middle school to this historic site and whose efforts helped to make that happen. The school board, who considered extensive community input and approved the renovation addition of the existing building at this site to become a new middle school in December 2014. The members of the Building Level Planning Committee, whose members met over countless hours for over a year to help design and thoughtfully consider all aspects of this building. APS facility staff, the architect, and the contractors who have renovated the existing building and are continuing to do amazing work on our new addition. Our wonderful principal, Ellen Smith, who was appointed in the spring of 2018. The members of the naming committee and the school board, which approved the name of our new neighborhood middle school as Dorothy Hamm Middle School in December 2018. The DHMS teachers and staff, whose enthusiasm and hard work have gotten our school off to a fantastic start. And all of the DHMS parents, students, and families who make the DHMS community such a special place. The DHMS PTSA is focused in this historic first year on building an inclusive and welcoming community, making connections among all of the various members of our community, and also aiming to connect with the surrounding neighborhood through service and outreach. The Dorothy Hamm Middle School PTSA strives to keep all members of our community informed about school events, PTSA events, activities, and opportunities to help out and connect with one another.
And shortly after the school board approved this project in December of 2014, I joined APS. So to use Principal Smith's vocabulary, my story as a career at APS parallels the story of this project in many ways. And like all APS capital projects, they are complex. This one was certainly no different. And as a project, it had to balance several, I've described them as layers. And we had to renovate and expand a 1950s architecturally significant school to fit the contemporary needs of a middle school program on a site that is partially within a resource protection area and nestled very quaintly into an existing neighborhood, while installing a private drive connecting to a state-owned highway, all the while performing construction that during the school year in a building that was occupied. Oh, and by the way, this was the first site in Virginia that was the first school in Virginia to be racially desegregated. So that's certainly no pressure at all. But like so many times, the Arlington community rose to the challenge. And every individual who played or are playing a part in this project should be very proud for the product and the result that we celebrate today. It would likely surprise most to hear the exhaustive list of individuals and organizations who take part to pull off a project like this, transforming the vision of a new neighborhood middle school into a reality. Personally, I find the two most rewarding results of this project are not directly related to design or construction at all. Number one, we heard quite a bit about how the project in some ways reignited discussions around Arlington's role in the story of desegregation and has launched a variety of new opportunities to connect future generations to the importance of that story. And secondly, it's been a pure joy witnessing the excitement and the enthusiasm of launching a new school community led by Principal Ellen Smith and her stellar staff. And if you come back in 2020, you'll be able to explore the fruits of the new addition and the historic commemoration efforts. So within the new addition currently under construction, we'll have several physical education spaces, a new school library, and a variety of general and science classrooms. Also, the historic commemoration components will be installed on the site on the slope that leads from Old Dominion Drive to the entrance of the new addition, and will honor the path the four students took on February 2nd, 1959. So on behalf of the project team, please enjoy your visit today, and thank you for the opportunity to share about the project.
And these three, their names ended up in a raffle for doing great things at Dorothy Hamm in the month of September. They didn't know that the raffle was the opportunity to cut the ribbon here, amongst others. But we are really excited to have the three of them here to help our county board, our leadership, Cynthia Johnson, to cut the actual ribbon.
All right. Do they really cut? Should we say, yeah, we really cut, right? Okay. All right, ready? 1, 2,